Good morning and happy United Tuesday! That is right. This is the most wonderful time of the year because we're here to bring together the entire Arcadia community of alumni, students, donors, parents, friends, trustees, and community members to show our belief in United Tuesday through giving and supporting the students of Arcadia University. My name is Durice Galloway, and I am a proud member of Arcadia University, where I serve as the Associate Vice President for Alumni Engagement and Annual Giving Strategies. It is my distinct pleasure to be here today to celebrate United Tuesday and kick it off with all of you. Now, I wish I had some coffee or some hot cocoa, but we have a lot of energy in this room today, so I know we're going to be able to make it through the next 1,853 minutes united with you. So to kick off this program, it is my pleasure to introduce our moderators for this morning. Please join me in welcoming Margaret Lyons, class of 2012. Margaret Lyons is a recent graduate trustee, and when I tell you, well, we're friends now, so I call her Maggie. When Maggie and I come around for homecoming, it's a party. She is holding it down for our young alumni and making sure to represent our recent graduates to distinction among the board. She's joined by Njambi. Njambi is a proud student of the class of 2024 and is serving as one of our inaugural University Advancement Student Ambassadors. She is phenomenal, and you guys get to have, in just a minute, a chance to meet and hear from both of them. So without further ado, please join me in welcoming Maggie and Njambi. Thank you.
It is our pleasure and honor to introduce Dr. Ajay Nair and Brigette Bryant. Dr. Nair assumed the role of president at Arcadia University in 2018. He is a nationally recognized expert in student affairs issues and an accomplished social justice, race, and ethnicity scholar. Before coming to Arcadia, Dr. Nair served as a senior vice president and dean of campus life at Emory University, where he was the most successful fundraiser in the history of Emory University campus life. The organization's fundraising tripled during his tenure.
Brigette Bryant started her tenure as Vice President for Alumni and Development Relations at Arcadia in 2019. She is a fundraising executive with nearly 3 decades of development experience in higher education. Brigette has a history of record-breaking fundraising achievements in all gift areas, including annual giving and major events, while integrating her commitment to justice, equity, diversity, and inclusion. She was recognized by the Council for Advancement and Support of Education with the prestigious Charles A. Wright Opportunity and Inclusion Leadership Award this past March. Ajay, Brigette, thank you for joining us today to talk about the impact and importance of philanthropy at Arcadia University as we kick off this year's 1,853 minutes of fundraising during our United Tuesdays campaign.
Before we begin, it might be helpful to define philanthropy. Brigette, what exactly is philanthropy?
Simply put, philanthropy is a thoughtful process where an individual or company gives for impact, gives with meaning and purpose. That's what I'm going to say. That's in the short answer. That's philanthropy.
Thank you. A question for Ajay. How does philanthropy play a role in your strategic vision and plan for Arcadia University and its students?
Great. It's a great question. And let me just tell the audience here, Brigette, I really like you, and we're apart right now for social distancing reasons. Otherwise, we'd be much closer. Much closer. We're trying to abide by our health guidelines. But it's a really wonderful question, and it plays right into the vision of the institution. Some of you have probably heard me say before that I like to think of Arcadia as a startup. And that might sound a little strange in the context of an institution that's been around since 1853. So I'll say a startup with an amazing foundation with the Beaver College legacy. Of course, startups require incredible amounts of resources and finances to get started. And oftentimes we think of startups as becoming future ready, right? In other words, they can withstand the kind of disruptions in the world. But I'm gonna think about startup in a more nuanced way. For Arcadia. And that is not just to withstand disruption, but to actually become a disruptor, as startups should do. And so with the financial support of our alumni, with the board, with all of our friends, with parents and families, we can become that disruptor. We can become an innovator. And so just yesterday I was visiting with one of our alums right here in Willow Grove. Her name is Amanda. And I share this story because the best examples of our success come through our alumni. Amanda is a leader in an organization called the Center for Forensic Science Research and Education. She graduated from Arcadia 10 years ago in our nationally recognized forensic science program. And I asked her why she selected Arcadia University 10 years ago. And I was really intrigued because she's from Montana. And so she may be the first student that I've met from Montana. I'm sure there are others, but she was the first that I had met. And she said to me a couple of things that I think will resonate with our audience today. First, she said, well, the quality of the program, it's the best in the country. She had many, many choices. She was a very successful undergraduate student, and she picked Arcadia because of its reputation. She also said the kinds of instruments that she had access to through forensic science, through Arcadia's program, is unparalleled. And I say all of this to say that philanthropy made all of that possible for Amanda. But there's one more piece of this as a kind of startup that I think distinguishes us from other institutions. And that is Amanda is not just successful in her day-to-day work, but she is now engaging in creating a pipeline for STEM students in high school, for students that are marginalized or underrepresented. So when you think about Amanda's success, it's not just her own personal success that we should take great pride in. She is actually paying it forward. She is having impact on the world around her. And that's what philanthropy does.
Thank you. Brigette, since your arrival, you have been talking about impact philanthropy. What exactly is that?
So what I like to think about when I think about impact is how we take an institution from where it is to where we would like it to be, how we leverage our support to move it in the direction that we want. So when I first came to Arcadia, there were a number of people making many small gifts, and it's not the size of the gift that creates the impact, it's really the generosity and the intent within the gift. So what I wanted to see was people supporting the university to the fullest extent of their personal circumstance, to have a purposeful impact on the institution in a way that was most meaningful, not only for them as donors, but also for the institution. So I want people to think about when they make a gift, what will it do? Who will it serve? How will it move? And I think if we think about our giving that way, it becomes a more thoughtful process that allows the university to thrive, and for them actually to feel a committed partner in that movement.
Thank you. So when I received my impact report, I was happy to see the growth in our fundraising achievement. And I know that there are a number of alumni still dealing with school loans or debts or job loss or other limiting factors. And Brigette, how do you include them in the impact philanthropy?
So we're never asking anyone to give sacrificially. I'm not asking anyone not to pay their mortgage and make a gift to Arcadia, or not to send their kids to school and give a gift to Arcadia. It's really about what your heart tells you to do. And if you're in a place in your life where you're still dealing with loans or you're having financial difficulty, I'm not asking you necessarily to give. But I have found over my life that there's always, or there's, most of the time, there's some discretion in what we decide to do. So for me, philanthropy is really a decision, just like love. It's a decision, it's an action, it's an act. Where instead of maybe getting that second cup of coffee at Starbucks, we might decide not to do that and instead to save a little bit of our money so that we can make a gift when the time is right. But I'm never asking anyone not to do something in order to do something for Arcadia. But it really depends on the impact that a person wants to have.
It's very helpful. Thank you.
This is a question for both Ajay and Brigette. I know there is some confusion in the community about the difference between an endowment and the annual fund. Can you please explain that for us now?
You're the expert, but I'll take a step. How about you build on what I share?
All right.
Okay? The way I think about endowments is it's really the university's foundation, right? You can often look at the endowment of an institution, and it's a good indicator of the health of the institution. And so Brigette can expand on that a bit, I'm sure. And I think about annual funds as sort of the lifeblood of an institution, meaning that if you're a dean or a chair or a president, and you have a brilliant idea that doesn't happen to be in the plan, how do you fund that, right? I mean, your operational dollars don't necessarily give you the flexibility to do that, but when you have an annual fund, it does give you that flexibility. And so I call it kind of the lifeblood of the institution. So for me, those are two sort of contrasting ways to think about it. And maybe another way to think about it too is an endowment is both for current and future expenses, right? Where the annual fund is really about what's going on today.
I think that was perfect.
Wow, okay.
Yeah. But I'm going to go a little deeper. So there are two types of funds at any institution, and a university is no different. There are unrestricted dollars and restricted dollars. There are many types of restricted dollars. But let's go back to the unrestricted dollars. That is the annual fund. If you think of a river, it flows. That's what the annual fund is. Further, more water. If you think of a bathtub when you're going to take a bath. I didn't mean to take you into the bathroom, but hear me out. When you want to take a bath, you turn on the water and you pull up the stopper so that the water can fill up slowly. Right? And that's what it does. That's exactly what it does. It fills up slowly. That's what the annual fund is. And that filling begins on June 1st for us, because that's the start of our fiscal year. And then on May 31st, we turn off the spigot. Whatever's in there is what we have. We unplug the stopper, and then we begin to spend those resources in the way that Ajay described. That's the annual fund. It's a bathtub. Now, an endowment, think of it differently. It's a permanent asset of the institution who is destined by design to grow incrementally, slowly. There are two ways that an endowment grows. One is through investment returns, and the other is through additional donor gifts. So the more people give to an endowment, the more it grows. And then it takes on a life of its own. It grows through a wonderful process I call compound interest. And it grows and it grows and it gets bigger and bigger, and that's what we need to be focused on. Now, both types of giving are just as important as the other. No one is more important than the other. But we need to do them simultaneously in order to have the impact that we're looking for at the institution. Bathtub.
Thank you so much for that analogy. It
You're
was very
welcome.
interesting.
You're welcome.
I believe there's a lot of questions about giving to an unrestricted fund, like the fund for Arcadia. Brigette, what are some common misconceptions about giving to the fund for Arcadia, and what should be known instead?
Oh, that's one of my favorite questions. So this notion that a gift doesn't matter, right? We've trained ourselves to believe that only the big gifts are important, and that couldn't be furthest from the truth. Frankly, the annual fund, or here we call it the Fund for Arcadia, is the most inclusive giving vehicle that we have. It accepts gifts of $1 all the way up to $50,000. So everybody can see themselves reflected in the annual fund. Every single gift made to the annual fund matters. Every single gift. Doesn't matter its size. What we're actually looking for is frequency. We're looking for a behavior in our alumni and in our community such that they give each and every year, because it's, after all, named an annual fund. We want to have partners, we want to have friends give consistently and for as long as they can or they wish to. And then over time, for them to start thinking about how to have greater impact with their giving. That's when you start looking at larger gifts, maybe gifts that go into the endowment, maybe gifts that go and do something else. But their unrestricted giving is, as Ajay says, the lifeblood. It's probably one of very important giving, and I would like to see, frankly, personally, from my professional experience, I'd love to see Arcadia, the Fund for Arcadia, reach $1 million over the next several years. That's something that is within our capacity to do.
Thank you.
You're welcome. I love talking about giving. Ask me more.
So a question for you, Ajay.
Sure.
From your perspective as a president, why should alumni, faculty, staff, trustees, friends, parents consider making a gift to Arcadia University? What have you experienced or witnessed that demonstrates why giving is important?
I think Brigette addressed that with the notion of impact philanthropy beautifully, but I'll just offer some nuances that might be important for our stakeholders. You think about the board and you say, well, why should a board give? The board should give because they are ambassadors of this university and they model for others why giving matters. You may ask faculty and staff, why should faculty and staff give when they give their labor, right? When they're working and they're trying to make a living. Well, I think faculty and staff members would agree that they get to see the direct benefit of philanthropy because they're working with our students day in and day out. They can see the beautiful infrastructure of this campus community that benefits from philanthropy. For parents and families and students, there's another nuance there. I think 99% of our students and families receive financial aid, and so they recognize that their tuition is heavily discounted. In fact, we discount tuition around 63%. And you could argue that that is unsustainable without philanthropy, because we do much of that through operational dollars. And so if you really press and you really ask families who are, of course, absorbing an incredible burden to finance their education, I think they also recognize how generous the university is being in terms of making this place affordable and accessible. And so there are nuanced ways to look at philanthropy for each stakeholder group, but at the end of the day, it's exactly what Brigette said around having an impact on the world around you and on our community.
Insightful, thank you.
So, a follow-up question for Ajay. What are some things we can expect to see changing for Arcadia and its students as philanthropy grows?
So I encourage all of our stakeholders to really read through our adaptive strategy. It's online, it's accessible, it's not the kind of strategic plan that you'll never want to read. It's a strategic plan that I think is incredibly exciting. And there are a couple of different components to it that I'll share very quickly because I know you're all going to go read that strategy if you haven't already. One is around academic innovation. Right? Academic innovation implies that there will be new program development to help our students enter the workforce successfully, to meet the needs of the workforce, so that they can not only be work ready, but also life ready. So I think you should expect to see many more new programs being developed at Arcadia that are innovative, that are state of the art. It's already in motion, it's already happening, you probably heard about many of them. Another component of the adaptive strategy really is around student success. We are well known for being a very student-centered community. And for Arcadia, what that means, the next sort of iteration of student success is around residential engagement and creating a kind of living laboratory where the classroom meets the community. And so we have great plans there as well. So stay tuned for more on student success and a student-centered approach. A third component is around what I call radical change. Right? And that radical change happens in many different forms, but I'll focus on one for the purpose of this conversation. And that is around justice, equity, diversity, and inclusion. This is an opportunity for us to seek positive transformation in our community and, again, the world by creating a more just community. And then finally, one that we haven't talked a whole lot about as a community, but it is coming and it is going to be an important feature of who we are. And I mentioned this actually with that story about Amanda earlier. And that is, I believe that Arcadia can be not only a regional leader, but a national and international leader in STEM education. If you think about STEM, that's where most of the job opportunities and growth is happening. But if you look at the data, for example, 50% of women comprise the workforce, but only 27% of women are in STEM professions. There's a huge discrepancy. And if you drill down even further into particular ethnic groups, you'll see that, for instance, the Latinx community comprises around 16% of the labor force, but only 7% of STEM opportunities. And then for the African American community, around 11% of the labor force, but only 9% of STEM professionals. Arcadia can have a tremendous impact, social impact. So the vision at the end of the day, Arcadia emerges as social impact university.
Really appreciate that. So Brigette, how does this all make a difference today on United Tuesday?
Oh my gosh. I think it makes a difference when we take a page out of the Floetry book and just say yes. Just say yes. When someone calls you today to ask you to consider a gift, just say yes. The more we're successful, the better outcomes we'll have for our students. And I think there's nothing more important that we do as people who work at an institution than to focus on the value that we bring to and for our students. So United Tuesday is our opportunity, all of us together, to make that difference.
Thank you.
Thank you.
So are there any final thoughts or comments that you'd like to share?
Yeah, I'll just say, and I don't mean to be overly dramatic, but this is a critical juncture for the institution. And I think you all have confidence that we will make incremental change at Arcadia and find success. We will be a great institution for sure. But if you want an institution that is going to make radical change and is going to leapfrog our peers and going to be a true leader in the industry, then your philanthropy really is necessary. It's critical. It's absolutely necessary for us to achieve our dreams. And so I'll leave you with that thought. Incremental change is, in my opinion, not an option. But radical change is absolutely what we must do.
And philanthropy matters. Every gift matters.
Thank you very much for both of you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Durice will now close us out.
I'm back. All right. Can we take, I know it's in the virtual world and I miss you guys and we hear it, but can we just take a few seconds to thank everybody today for coming out, being safe, and talking about the importance of philanthropy? And now for you, thank you. So many of you have already stepped up. You answered the questions that were coming by saying yes. And now I'm going to ask you to keep saying yes. Help us guide our way through our goals for this day. The next day and some change, about 30 hours, is really going to be an opportunity for us to show the world how much we believe and care and love about Arcadia University by uniting as one community and making a gift of any size. It's about the generosity in your heart that you're committing to Arcadia, and that is what we're celebrating today. So thank you. Thank you for waking up early, or maybe it's late where you're at, or maybe it's midday, but thank you for logging in. Thank you for showcasing Arcadia. Thank you for asking your friends and family to join you in the next few days or the next day. And thank you for being a part of this community. I do want to share that we are so close to that early bird goal. We are just about there. So I'm so excited to say the advisory council, they believe in us enough that they want to extend this goal. They know we can do this. They know you can do this, and they know we will come together. So we are extending that deadline. There will be an email to come soon, as well as a few emails today, just so you know. It is United Tuesday with more details. But in the meantime, keep plugging along. Please share the word, and we'll see you later, Arcadia. Happy United Tuesday.